Hey, John here again, and this is the first orchestral recipe. It's first in a series that hopefully will be filled with a ton of these in the end. So I think I'll call this one "Going Deep" because it's a really low sounding device. And if you look at the score here, you might have figured out that it's I'm using the focus feature on Sibelius, so you actually only see the saves where stuff is happening. I don't know why I included the English horn. Anyway, I think we can see it good enough anyway. I think we'll just start out with listening to this short excerpt. Here we go. Okay. So what I liked about this one was that you get all these sort of brooding chords. Well, actually, it's not too low, but it's would consider the device pretty low anyway, because the chords are handled by the tuba, trombone, and the trumpet, and we have that against the backdrop of the basses and the cellos playing an ostinato figure here. And in this is from the first movement of Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, and it's a really short section, but in this context it's in D minor, and where we got the basses here on the going fifth to the flatted sixth. It's going on and on. You can maybe just listen to these guys. So it's basically the same figure over and over again, but it's the effect is more of a murmuring than, especially since we have the legato feel here. Sorry, where only it's a new bow on each beat, which sort of defines the beat somewhat, even though there will be a natural accent there. But by doing it this way, it won't sound would sound very overpowering and kind of distracting if they would bow each note. So this legato thing gives it a more murmuring, rumbling effect, and over that we have low brass chords, and the thing that I found here that's a bit different, at least as far as I've seen, I haven't seen it that much, is the trumpet is actually the middle voice of the trombone chords here. So you got the trumpet here on the A3, and you actually got this note D4 above it, which I consider sort of the melody note, and this whole thing is sort of a thickened up melody. So if we listen to this, you'll hear that we'll hear the top note as sort of a melody, and then we have almost not really a chorale style, but homophonic writing below it, so it's just harmonized. But it's a sort of thick melody. And I stopped here, so you can see here the rest of the. If we would continue here, Tchaikovsky continues in F major with introducing the horns, and it's sort of a brighter version of what we just heard. But I found this to be enough, because it, at least for this example. And the thing we should watch out for here is that the trombones here is in the tenor notation, so we got actual middle C here. And moving a bit closer. So we got middle C here. And we have a tuba and the lowest trombone are playing the same line, which technically it isn't the bass line, because the basses and the cellos are holding down the lowest notes. So, but it's just part of the chords. So, and this, what I also found interesting when it comes to orchestration here is the run here, the fill, should I call it? And what you have here is the D minor harmonic minor scale, or D harmonic minor scale, and starting on, and what we hear is like with this example, whenever you have something chordal like this, what sticks out most is the top note. So if we focus on that, you have is the D harmonic minor scale starting on A, which is A, B flat, C sharp, which is the raised seventh. So if it would be just a regular D minor, we would have a C here, but we don't. Hence the D harmonic minor. And so this is sort of the characteristic sound. The minor third instead of the regular whole step, and then the half step between here, so it really leads into the D. So that run goes up to, I'm sure you've seen this in other scores, and it's 7-note. I think I talked about this in an earlier video as well, but this is really usual, a common thing to do, that you use a septuplet because you have the entire 7-note scale in one beat. So it might look kind of flashy and sort of like almost progressive rockish if you come from that background to use septuplets, but it's the orchestral musicians, they don't really think like that. It's more, they see it's it's just a 1-octave scale on one beat, so it's nothing more, nothing less. But anyway, this run is actually harmonized in triads, which is a cool way to thicken up a line if you want that effect. And because usually we tend to see runs like this in octaves or just unisons, but in this case it's harmonized by 2 more notes. So and in this case it's built by using, look at the notes, we have an A, B and a C sharp, which makes it A major chord in first inversion. So we could look at it like the 5 chord then since each line just follows the scale, we have the same. We will have the same inversion going all the way up to the top. So we have the 5 chord, 6 chord, 7, and so on. And exactly the same thing here in the woodwinds. Just everything is up an octave. So when the strings stop here on A5, the flutes start on A5 and goes up to A6. So if you just listen to the woodwinds we have. So, same thing. We can listen to the woodwinds and strings together. So it gives it kind of a cool effect, because especially here when it starts at a pretty low dynamic marking, so it sort of builds up naturally, because the strings goes up until this point where the woodwinds take over, and the woodwinds actually we'll use a hairpin here to push the dynamics while the scale goes up. So I like this. Not really a blend of color, because we have the strings first and then we have the woodwinds separately, but the combined effect is sort of a blend, and this starts not really low, but compared to the woodwinds it gives it a nice rising effect. And the thing here is that he didn't use a piccolo, so it's 3 flutes, because right after in the score it says prepare the piccolo, so no piccolo here, just 3 flutes. But a piccolo would work fine as well, I think. I don't think it's such a fast thing, so you wouldn't really notice if you'd use 1 piccolo and 2 regular flutes. Not that big of a difference, since the piccolo would be playing in the same octave anyway. But in this case it was 3 flutes. And the 3 flutes basically takes over the role of the first violins. So if you can see here, they're just playing the regular scale. No, it's not harmonized like that. And instead we have the oboe, the 2 oboes playing. So this oboe is sort of taking over violin 2, just playing the E, and this is taking over the violas. And the clarinets double the oboe, and that's just gives a color, and also it balances out the fact that we have 3 flutes on this one line. So, and then you get 2 instruments on each of the other lines, but they're a bit stronger, so it balances out pretty nicely. So, but that was just a cool thing, I feel, to thicken out the run as well as the fact that it gives more interest orchestrationally by combining the strings and the woodwinds instead of just mashing them together and doubling everything. So that was cool. And as usual, let's see, as usual you can see the fill comes in here when the melody is resting. So got the melody going down here, and then so that's on beat 1, and then on beat 2 the fill starts, and right after the fill ends the melody comes in again. So it's just filled with good principles. So Before we check out my own example, I thought we might look at the setup of this, and you see it looks really easy when we break it down like this. So I haven't removed any notes. Everything is here, but it always looks more impressive in the full score. But that's why it's so valuable to break it down like this. And we'll just have a listen to this as well. See, it works fine as on the piano as well. And I'm pretty sure he wrote this on piano and then orchestrated it. And here you can really see the triads and how it's harmonized. So it's basically the melody, and then just harmonized with different chords from the D minor scale. So it's nothing spectacular, but it's just good solid writing. As far as the elements go, we have 3 elements at the most going at a time. So we got the ostinato and the melody, which has 2 elements. Nothing that much happening here. And then we have ostinato keeps going throughout, and the melody it rests, but it's still sounding. So and by rest it can mean that it's totally quiet, or it can mean that it's just sustaining. Because as long as you don't have any new attacks, your brain will not be confused when something new comes in. So that's why the fill works really well here. Oh yeah, and it's, as you can see here, the fill it's even easier to see this reduced version, because you can clearly see that typical first inversion voicing, where and the inversions are, if you don't know, if you just take this C major for, so that's the C major, and that's the first inversion, and second inversion, and finally just the same thing, 1 octave higher. So basically what inversions means that you reorder the notes, and what gives each inversion its name is what note, whether it's root, third, fifth, seventh, etc., is on the bottom. So as you can see here, we have the root position because we have the root in the bottom, and here's the third, so that's the first inversion, and then we have the fifth, and that's the second inversion. So and then we got the root position again here. But it's really easy to understand, I think. And also another thing, if we do this is still a first inversion chord, but it's just an open voicing, because as long as we have the third in the bottom, it will be the third inversion, regardless of what you put on top. And the same goes with everything else. So what gives it its name is whatever note is on the bottom. Okay, so and as you can see here, it's a pretty distinct shape where you have the biggest gap, at least here in triads, you have the biggest gap in between the top 2 notes here, and you can see that shape here. So it's pretty easy to recognize when sight reading, and that's a good way to learn, actually, to figure out what kind of inversion you've used. So if you look at this here, you have the same. Here's the first inversion because you have that gap. Here's the root position, and now we're just looking at this stave. So just for the sake of explaining this, so we got root position here, and then we got the first inversion again because of the gap. Then the gap is here on the bottom. That means that it's the fifth on the bottom because you got the 5 and 1 and 3. And as you can see here, this is a minor chord. This is a D minor. So regardless if it's minor or major, or diminished, actually, as long as it's triad or augmented, you'll see this gap. So this is a root position. So it's a G minor again. So it's a good thing to learn because you can visually see what type of inversion you're dealing with, and that will make it much easier to figure out the actual chord as well. So that's just a quick tip. Anyway, so I think that's about it for this one. And when I made my own example, I wanted the same element. So the recipe here is I have a low murmuring ostinato, and I don't think this works in just to have this sort of the same effect. You need to use the cellos and the basses because that's the only instruments that can be this low. Maybe a piano as well, really softly, but I wouldn't recommend doing something like this with the woodwinds, for example, for any length of time at least, because they would run out of breath. So ostinatos in general aren't that great for woodwinds if you're not careful. So so a low ostinato, and then this type of harmonized melody, and then just a fill. I mean, the fill is up to you if you want to use it or not. In this case, I kept it in the same key. I lowered the tempo a bit for my own version, and I came up with the melody first, and then I simply harmonized it by ear. So nothing spectacular at all. And I think I use some 7 chords as well, so not only triads, but it's all from the D harmonic minor scale. So, and also I changed my ostinato a bit because I wanted to. So I have this. A little tweak here, so it's not too static. But the point of the ostinato is to sort of just be there and not really be heard. So having too much variation would sort of defeat the purpose. But I tried this out and it worked well, so I kept it. Okay, we'll listen to my piano version first. Oh yeah, I don't know if I always said that, but I took the exact same fill because I really liked that. And another thing with these kinds of fills, they don't really belong to anyone because it's basically just a scale. It has it's just a 2-octave scale. I mean, sure, the orchestration might, but I think you can find similar things in thousands of pieces. So I wouldn't worry about anything like this. I feel fills in general sort of open. This special scalar fills like this, where it's just a scale going up 1, 2, or 3 octaves or down. You know, it's no really recognizable pattern. So I have no qualms about borrowing that. So here it is. Oh, another thing, when it comes to dynamics, you can see it's just piano for everything here except the fill. So okay, and the orchestration for my own version is let's see here. Okay, gonna wrong way. You can see the whole score if we're lucky. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. What I added here, I think we're gonna get out of this view actually. Oh, here we go. So let's just listen to it first, and then I'm gonna show you what I added. Okay. First off, we have the ostinato I kept in the same instruments because of the reasons I said before, that it's just this type of figure is simply best suited for the strings in this case at this range, and because of the tempo and for the length of time it's playing. And like I said before, it's the same. I took the exact same because that was one of the things that I really liked about this, was the fact that the strings and woodwinds trade off. So it's the same thing here. String start in the triads, and then the woodwinds pick it up one octave higher. Same thing here. Kept the same type of voicing, the trumpet in the middle, because I hadn't tried it out before. It's sort of easy to think linearly when it comes to stuff like this, that you sort of want trombones is the lower instrument, so it have to be lower all the time. But that's not the case. It all depends on dynamics and all that stuff. So if it would be higher dynamics, I think if it's over MF, it wouldn't work as well, because the trumpet has a really hard time playing loudly at this low. So whereas the trombone would just blow it out of the water. But whenever the music is below MF, it's much easier to make it blend regardless of the instruments. So that's why it works pretty well. And you can just listen to the melody here. So mine's a bit more active than the original. But and also but besides that, it's the same orchestration, and like I said before, I tried this to have the trumpet in between the trombones here, so it's really the trombone has the top note here. And yeah, what else did I add here? Yeah, I added this let's see, it's a very low timpani tremolo, so, and it's on the A, which is basically what and then just leads into the D here. But it's on the A because it's basically that's what the strings are playing. So even though they're playing A, B flat, A, B flat, A, it's basically just they're on the 5 chord here. And since we're in D minor, A is the 5 chord. So if we listen to these three together, we see it doesn't really clash. Okay. And oh yeah, when it comes to the run here, I also added the harp. So the harp actually, it's a harp gliss. And I'm gonna try to focus on this thing. And we can just listen to the harp gliss. Okay, so you see all this stuff here. It's actually just Sibelius. It's a plugin that when you write a harp diagram, which I've done here, you have to use a plugin to make the gliss. So instead of having to notate the gliss, which is not really something you would do anyway, but if I don't use this plugin, it would just play notes of C major, which would sound like shit in most cases. So that's why I have to use the plugin, and when you use the plugin, you get all this crap. But a thing about harp diagrams, it's a good way, it's a good thing to learn, and it's pretty easy. And in most cases, you don't have to use them, but you just notate what you want. But when it comes to glisses and stuff like that, I think you should know them. And basically, it's laid out like this. This is the pedals, and the pedal of a harp is here's the standard position where it's in neutral. So if all the pedals would be in neutral, as you can see, you get 7 pedals and you get 7 notes in a scale. So if all the pedals would be neutral, you would have just the natural notes. So each string would be according to the white notes on a white keys on a piano. So, and then you either let up a pedal or you push it down. And if you let up the pedal, you loosen the string, which means that it gets the string gets flat. So you probably can figure out if the pedal is let up, like in this case, it's 1 step flat, so a half note down. And in this case, the layout of the pedals is might seem weird at first, but it's pretty easy to learn. You get B, C, D here, and then you get E, F, G, A. So, and you get if the pedal would be neutral, it would be a B, but now it's a B flat because it's according to the D minor harmonic minor scale. We have a B flat, and this note here is, like I said, B, C, D, so it's a C. But now the pedal is pushed down, which means that the string gets sharper. And again, it's just a half step. So that means that all the C strings on the harp will get a half step sharper. So it's all the C strings will now sound like C sharp. So we got B flat, C sharp, and then just regular D here. So that's basically what a harp pedal diagram is used for. And this means that for the harpist to do his or her gliss, we'll simply push down, let that pedal up, push that down, and then just start on the right string, which is the A string here, and then gliss up to whatever notes notated. So I think it's a great way to know. It's a good thing to know this, and as always, the more you know about the instruments you're writing for, the happier the musicians will be, and also the happier your clients will be with your mock-ups, because it will sound like an actual, at least approximately like an actual orchestra, if you don't do stupid shit. So let's just listen to this again, and then we're done. Let's zoom out here so you can see a bit. I mean, this is far enough so you can't really see the notes, but you can see. It's actually a good way to view orchestral scores sometimes, because you sort of see the different ideas easier. Even though you don't get the details of all the notes here, you can see sort of what goes together and what's separate. So here, I think it's really easier to see that this is a separate element. And here you see the same rhythm. So that's a good trick to know that you're having that some idea is connected. And here you can see there's sort of something's happening here. See the same thing, and as well as this thing, of course. So let's just take a final listen. Okay, so that's it. What I suggest that you do now, if you like this idea, just try it out for yourself. I only made one example this time, but I mean, this is like most of these devices. It's or recipes. It's pretty limitless what you can do. So you can change the keys, try different modes, try out different melodies, do a bunch of different stuff, and change the orchestration or whatever. But it's a good. The more recipes like this that you have in your mind, the easier it will be to treat each new idea that you have. That you sort of have like a big menu of things that you can do with it. Because I've always had an okay time with coming up with adequate melodies. That's never been a weakness, but I had a hard time for a pretty long time to know, okay, I have the melody and I have the chords, but now what do I do with this? So it's just a great thing to build up this sort of internal library of ideas, and you learn it best by actually doing it by yourself. So while I learned a lot by just copying this example, I learned even more by doing my own version of it. So, and even if just 10% of everything you study actually ends up in your usable vocabulary, it's worth it, because and it's fun. So if you have any questions or comments or anything, just feel free to contact me on my website. You have the link below as usual, or on my channel. And please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll keep doing this for as long as you guys find it useful. Thanks, and see you next time. Bye bye.